Alrighty. So here we go. UX is user experience and UI is user interface. I'm just gonna bump you guys over here. Don't know how to change my view, so I'm gonna go on a little bit of a, anyways, I'll pop you guys over there. Okay, so UX puts the focus on the entire web product of the user. So that's thinking about, say, your personas. UI makes sure the user has a complete in control over the interface, so the visual aspects. UX designers aim and shoot to make sure the web product is successfully built or successful before it's built. So making sure everything is going to be in the best place, why it's there. Technically, we'll have a rationalization for all of that before it even goes into anything visual. UI designers make sure the interactive elements help the users find that success. So you need to have a big go button. That's where the UI designer is going to make that green, or a big stop button. The designer is going to make that red. UX designers use data from research, usability testing, personas, analytics, surveys, maps, etc. Lots and lots of stuff to create a better experience for your users. So this is where a lot of the back end, a lot of, like I said, or like it says here, research and testing, and you're not visually doing anything at this stage. UI designers use interaction, design, graph design, composition, visual hierarchy, and prototypes to design beautiful functional interfaces for the user. Take a little coffee break here. UX designers use tools like Miro, InVision, sticky notes, pen, paper, wireframes, lots and lots of stuff, little playing cards, etc. Lots of different things to, my phone is going crazy. To map out your actual designs. UI designers use tools like Sketch, Adobe XD, Figma, so this is where you make things beautiful. UX designer makes sure the user will be successful performing the tasks they need to in order to achieve. So how are we going to get from point A to point B? Are we going to push this button, or do we need to push this button and then this to get us here? UI designer designs the screens of what the final web product will look like. So when you push this button, it's going to look this color, it's going to have this visual, etc. UX and UI share some disciplines, wireframes and prototypes. In some situations, a designer may be asked to be in charge of both UX and UI. For the most part, so I'm looking over here, that's where I have my screens here. That's where some places will have a specific UX or UI designer, but sometimes you take care of both. Technically, that's what I've most done for the most part, is both portions of that. What does UX look like? Post-it notes, etc. A lot of teamwork. UI looks like, how does that visually look? Working remotely, obviously, lots of advantages of UX and UI designers. Really kind of technically in this day and age, any designers can work just about anywhere. Remote designers make up a strong portion of our field. You can have a client in the UK, you can have a client in the States. So that's the advantage. I think probably the one advantage to COVID is that we're all getting very used to working remotely. And it's giving everybody a clear picture of, we don't really all need to be like in our seats at the office, but still being able to have that availability. No questions so far. Kind of blasting through this quick-ish. We'll just go into UX UI define. So again, a lot of kind of intro work we're doing here today. Slide you guys over here. Okay, so UX designers come up with the general concept, its structure and the flow of interactions, as well as a variety of factors. So you think about a site map. So you have your home, and then you have your pages. So you have your about, you have your shopping, you have your product, etc. And then the UI interface, they're more visual again. So who's the best, find the best solution for visual performance. So if we are designing, say, a meditation app, we're not going to make it bright red. If we are designing, something where we need it to be really intense and, super cool, we're not going to go and use, maybe soft pastels. UX, UI. So there's a little visual of what UX and UI technically looks like. This is the skeleton and the bones, and this is the skin and the makeup. So thinking about the thought process, the visual strengths, etc., between the two, there is lots of crossover thinking, but there's also very direct thinking. So our thought process for UX, lots of critical thinking and creative thinking. And the thought process on UI is creative thinking and a little more convergent thinking. Our design principles, human-centered design, and then a little more visual design. So human-centered design means like, how is your brain thinking? Where do you automatically look to for a logo when you're on a website? Where do you automatically look for your menu when you're on your phone? You look at that hamburger menu on the top right, etc. Salary range, so UX designers 95, visual, UI 85. This is a very broad range. So this is at Mohawk College. This is a picture Michael had taken. So UX, so the experience, and immediately they think like, okay, well, here's our sidewalk to get from this point down here to this point over here. But really the experience is people are going to take that shortcut. So that's where a lot of your testing and a lot of your research comes into play. Where are people directly going? And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to just put the sidewalk in that spot instead. Here too, UX and UI. UX, a different experience between the two of them. User experience design is the process of enhancing customer satisfaction and loyalty by improving the usability, ease of use, and pleasure provided in the interaction between the customer and the product. An approach that incorporates direct user feedback throughout the development cycle in order to reduce costs and create products and tools that meet the user's needs. Whew, need a little sip of coffee here. So consider this. You're going to paint a room. Would you just go and buy paint and start slapping it on the walls? Some of us would. But a UX designer looks at the room carefully. Maybe the room is very dark, so you think about all the factors. You think about the lighting in there. You think about who's going to be in there. Once these decisions have been made by surveying and asking questions to the potential users, the correct paint color of the walls will be painted. So yes, that's a visual thing, but it's just thinking about taking all of the factors into play. So I know it's kind of a crappy example, but thinking about a prison, a prison is not going to be bright red. When you see red, you potentially can feel very fiery. So they use maybe soft, more muted tone. So this is where you need to think about all of those things. Not a lot of lighting, so you want a brighter color. What does a UX designer do? The job is to make sure a web product will be successful before it's coded. They make sure the experience of a web user has when navigating the website flows effortlessly. It doesn't confuse the user. It's based on the goals of the product. So when you're starting off, someone says, I need a website. It's like, what exactly do you need? Or they have a website and they need improved. What is the issue? Oh, the issue is actually the fact that no one knows how to shop. No one can find the shop button. So that's where you need to really consider that. They make sure a user can complete tasks, so sign up for a newsletter, etc. Like I said, go find that shop button. And then they identify any issues a user may have in performing tasks through surveys and user testing and fix them. So what does a UX designer do? So they research, they create those personas, they do an information architecture, sketches wireframe, and then they do some testing. So this is really basic testing. This is not testing on anything where we've taken the time and made anything really nice and visual. If we just flip back for a quick second and look at, whoops, this is where you would do your testing. So it's still your skin and bone, or sorry, just your bones there, but you'd still technically using InVision be able to navigate through. So you would be able to click this button and see where that would take you. Just some links here on UX. So UI. This is UI. This is XD here. If you guys have never downloaded it or opened it up, this is XD. They work very much like all the other Adobe software, so you should be able to navigate through very well, but we'll do that together. UI is the design of user interfaces for maximizing usability and the user experience. The goal of the user interface is to make the user's interaction as simple and efficient as possible in terms of accomplishing user goals. So while UX, what the heck? I'm not going to touch my mouse. While UX and UI designers can share many tasks in the process, the main job of the UI designer is to build a finished comp of the product. So that's where you're going to, if you think in the print world, that's where you might doodle out what your poster looks like, and then you're going to take that poster and bring it into InDesign. UI designers are more concerned with the visual look and feel. UI designer will build out pages of a website in both desktop and mobile formats. And they'll also create prototypes of the comp versions. So again, using InVision, making sure everything links properly and making sure everything functions well. Very different things. So you guys just a fun little graphic. These guys work a little more on visuals. These guys work on research, prototyping, wireframing. So there's still the skeleton of it because nothing's actually really functioning. It hasn't gone technically into development yet, but still two different ways of doing it. Not going to go through that. That's just the process of how things all kind of shake out. Again, some more tools on what a UI designer, so Sketch, Photoshop, Illustrator, so all of these things. And then again, in prototyping here, there's our InVision. I'll just stop that share for a moment, and I'm going to